If you don't know what you're spending on a daily basis, if you don't know your habits, if you don't know why you're not saving what you think you should be saving, then you're at nothing.
Carol Glynn is in the studio. We are going to talk money, business money, personal finances, money myths, everything you need to know. I have many pet hates about dealing with business owners who know nothing about their finances.
It's so important to take charge of your own money. There was so many blocks that I heard people telling me about. They feel stupid when it comes to money. They just don't understand it, to give it to somebody else. And that's where Conscious Finance Coaching was born, to really support individuals and business owners to manage their money better.
The only right answer for everybody is to have that financial clarity. X is coming in and Y is going out, and therefore there's Z left over.
I regularly say money loves clarity. Bring it back to clarity. Understand your value system, what's actually important to you. That's when money actually brings joy. That's when you're confident in your decisions.
Whether it's accounts, whether it's legal, whether it's marketing, you've got to have a strong knowledge of every single department, every single aspect of the business.
The biggest thing for me is opening up that mind to go, you can be in charge of your accounts. It doesn't need to be overly complicated.
The number of accountants I've hired who are almost mathematically incompetent is absolutely frightening. If left unchecked, where does that go to?
And this is exactly why I do what I do, because I've seen the damage that causes, running themselves into the ground for no reason.
You advise people on how to invest and how to make better choices for the future.
I don't believe in retirement, I believe in financial freedom. Financial freedom is the goal.
Carol Glynn is in the studio, and we are going to talk money, business money, personal finances, money myths, everything you need to know. Carol, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Thank you very much. We're going to start off talking about business finance, because my core day-to-day business is lending money to SMEs back in the UK. So I have many pet hates about dealing with business owners who know nothing about their finances. Either they know nothing about them, or they know nothing because they just hand everything over to their accountant, CFO, which for me is as good as, or as bad as rather, as not even having one and not knowing about it yourselves anyway. So I want to get deep into some of my personal gripes, but just set the scene. Just give us a bit of background to you and why you're qualified to be our money manager for the day.
Okay, well, I'll give you my CV. I'm an Irish chartered accountant by trade. I trained with PricewaterhouseCoopers in Ireland, and then I moved to Abu Dhabi almost 15 years ago now with Ernst & Young, so a lot of Big Four training. Moved into industry then and had various finance roles. I mean, I couldn't even begin to list them, because I worked for AIG Insurance, and as we say, they're nothing if not dynamic. Every day you're doing something different. So I was regional CFO, managing 150 people across EMEA at one point, then moved into another corporate, and again, a partner, head of finance for this Middle East and Iraq. And then 5 years ago, decided that even though I was doing very well in finance, which as a woman in the Middle East, as a mother, I was very, very lucky. It was phenomenal. Every company I worked for was, honestly, I couldn't fault. I wasn't happy. And obviously, I was the reason. It wasn't the job. So just before COVID hit, decided that it was time to take some time out and figure out what I wanted to do next. And that's where Conscious Finance Coaching, my business, was born. Not the best timing, when it was like December 2019. And obviously couldn't foresee what was about to come. So I then looked at what it is that I could bring to the table to help people. Using my qualifications, using my experience. I wasn't going to let 2 decades of experience just go. And that's where Conscious Finance Coaching was born, where, to exactly what you said, I realised there was a need to really support individuals and business owners to manage their money better, to understand money more, to demyth money. There was so many blocks that I heard people telling me about they feel stupid when it comes to money. They just don't understand it, to give it to somebody else, be that their partner or their accountant or their business partner, to manage it. And I just thought, you know what, there's a real gap here, because there's so much power in money. It's so important to take charge of your own money, be it your business or your personal, and both. And that's where I decided, well, actually, I think I can help people here, do something I really enjoy, bring my skill set. And I always wanted to work for myself. So that's how it came about.
Cool.
Hey, Matt here. Just interrupting myself quickly to say thank you for listening to No Bollocks. But did you also know I've got another podcast, Stripping Off with Matt Haycox. Very different. No Bollocks is the quick daily business tactics that you need, but stripping off, we go deep, deep, deep with a CEO, with a celebrity, with an athlete, with just an international, inspiring character. We find out what makes them tick, we find out how they got to where they got to, and we find out how you can learn and benefit from them too. So jump on over to Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, wherever you listen to your content, and I'll see you on a future episode.
Just going back into some of the things you said in that lovely CV there, you started working for PwC. Talk to me from a business owner's perspective about the difference between working with one of the big four and not. And I guess the leading part of the question is it ever worth the money, or is it just like buying designer jeans that are made in the same factory as Levi? And I obviously have my own views as a business owner, but I mean in relative terms, you can be talking the difference between using a big four versus a regional practice versus a local practice. I mean by the time you go from big four to local practice, you're probably 10x. You're still going to be 2, 3, 4x if you're dealing with a regional practice. But are they different accountants? Do they know magic tricks that the other firms don't know?
I think it really comes down to what are you looking for? And what can you afford? You have to be realistic as a business owner. And are you looking for the PwCs of the world because you want the brand? Because I've seen that too often where people go, but I want the big four because that makes me feel better about my business, that I'm working with a business of that size, which is ego at the end of the day, right? I trained with PwC and I do have a lot of loyalty to PwC, and I am actually, when I moved outside it, is when I really appreciated the training that I got there. Like, it is next to none the training that I got in Dublin, in the department that I was in. So
what department did you work in?
I actually worked in investment management, and you were placed there. So I was put into money from the beginning. And then I audited all because in Ireland we have the DIFC, or the IFSC, which is a tax-free zone for investment banking. So we've all the global banks there that I worked in that department to audited all of those. So if you say the accountants are different, the training that we get there, and I'm talking about PwC in Dublin specifically here, phenomenal. Like, I honestly so grateful for that now. Now, as a business owner, I would say you need to look at what you want and what are you getting. And are you a big fish in a small pond or a small fish in a big pond? And what are you paying for? I do think as a small business owner, what's actually important is talking to who it is, be it PwC or your regional accountant or your local accountant. What are they going to give you? How much time are they going to give you? How much attention are you going to get from them? What I see too often is people paying for accountants or finance services, whatever that might be, because that can be many things. And they're not looking into what they're actually getting back from them, and they don't build a relationship with them. So I would say, if you have the cash and you have a major project, then Big Four are amazing. Like, they really are. But if you just have your run-of-the-mill accounting, you want someone who's actually going to give you time and attention, then I would look more to who is going to service you and what does that mean to you on your return on investment. Can you afford? What can you afford? And who is the best person placed? But first you need to look at what you want. What do you actually want from this? Is it the name? Now, there is also situations where, mergers and acquisitions, sometimes people need that big name to be able to push it through. So I didn't directly answer your question because I think it does depend on circumstance.
No, you answered it enough. It enough. Yeah, I mean, one of the businesses I'm involved in at the minute, and I would never normally be going to a big four, not because of an aversion to them in general, just that I don't think I benefit from the extra cost. However, one particular business I'm involved in, where we do a lot of fundraising, there's a multiple eight-figure investment book there that we raise from third parties. At the minute, we use a decent London auditor, but it's a decent, but no one would know the name outside of that. But I strongly believe that over the next 12 months, we will move from them to a Big Four. for nothing. And are we going to get a better service? No. Are we going to pay 5 times the price? Absolutely. But I just think from a brand perspective, and I don't buy into it, but from a brand perspective, it will be another great tick in our fundraising box that will make it easier for us to raise money, or potentially cheaper for us to raise money. And I guess
exactly, and that's choosing it as and when it benefits you, and you're paying for that. That's your return on investment. I'm paying for this to have the name because it gives me what I need. So rather than just I want to be with them because that's who they are, but is it actually benefiting your business?
When you moved from working in practice to working in industry, were there any big eye-opening moments? Was it like a different kind of accountancy?
Oh, totally different. Oh my God. I went from, the biggest thing I struggled with was I worked in Abu Dhabi. And at that time, I was the most senior female on the floor. So I very gratefully had access to all of the major clients. But it meant that I was constantly on the go. Every day I was in the car visiting various clients, visiting teams, organising. It was very, very dynamic. And I went from that to sitting at a desk, and we were the accounts department, so we weren't even on the main floor. We were on another smaller floor with a limited amount of people, and I sat there all day on a laptop. And I was, that was just from an everyday, I was like, I have to sit and I'm not seeing people, I'm not moving around, I'm not having various different conversations. That was quite the adjustment. And then I remember at the time as well that, it's very, very different. And I think a lot of accountants kind of underestimate this. It's very different going from reviewing them, auditing them, checking them, to actually doing them and being responsible for them and making those decisions on a daily basis. And also I was then managing a team that didn't shift, because I was in audit and I had all my clients, but each client had a different team. And that team moved around. So I managed them for a period of time, but not on an annual basis. So now, as well as that, I also had a team that I was responsible for that were reporting directly to me, not just for like a 2-week period or a 3-week period, 3-month period. So that was an adjustment too. And then it also was, working for one person, because again, in audit, you'd work for different partners. I now had, at that time, a CFO that I had to report to. Well, there was 2 lines. There was a CFO here, and then there was the global one in New York that I reported into. So that was a shift change as well that took a bit of adjusting. But, yeah, it was worth it.
And when you're in industry and you are effectively working alongside, reporting directly into a CEO, how do you interact with them, and how do you typically find their knowledge or lack of knowledge of what is going on in the accounting department of a business, and how to read and deal with a set of accounts?
It really varied, and actually that was another thing that was a shocker to me when I went into industry, the limited knowledge of actual finance that existed there outside the finance department. I had, because in somewhere like AIG, you've got a lot of pillars. So then I would have been like a business partner to a lot of these guys who would have P&Ls by themselves, and managing like hundreds of millions of dollars of books. And I had one guy come to me and he's like, Carol, I don't know what P&L means. And he was in his 60s.
And this is a CEO?
He would have been the head of that department,
right,
responsible for a P&L of, I can't remember, maybe $300 million at the time. And a very vulnerable thing for him to admit, but no, they're not given finance training. CEOs, my experience, I've worked for many, they tend to be more clued in, but for me personally, it was one, moving from not just focusing on revenue, but actual profit and what we're doing with that profit. Not just sales. Yep. How does it feed to the bottom line, and what are we going to do with that? That was really important. And then also changing the mindset when it comes to accounting, to finance. We're not the bad guys. And even to be honest, with my teams, it was always like, there's these walls between, it's like protectionism, I found, in this region, probably more so. There's protectionism around the numbers and finance. Like, no, we are the service provider to the business. It's our job to make sure they understand the numbers. And then vice versa, come to us. We're not the enemy. We're not just always saying, no, cut. That mentality. So that was a surprise for me as well, that we weren't always viewed as the business partners. We were viewed as almost a problem that had to be dealt with. managed.
I mean, by the sounds of it, you've worked in and dealt with some pretty substantial businesses, and I guess my day-to-day back in the UK is dealing with SMEs. Now, I would imagine that once you're getting into 8-9 figure turnover and public businesses, etc. I'd like to think those CEOs have got a better grounding of accounts, and I guess they've probably had to learn it or have it imposed on them along the way, but moving to the SME side of things, I mean, my day-to-day experience of understanding or lack of understanding of accounts is absolutely frightening. I mean, if I deal with a business borrower, we'll on day one immediately request accounts, management accounts, bank statements, etc. I mean, even getting management accounts can be a struggle in itself, because so many businesses are happy to not run with any kind of management information whatsoever. It's almost just an imposition on them having to do the annual accounts. I mean, if they didn't have the kind of company's house imposed year ends that they had to do, they'd probably happily just carry a bag full of receipts for their entire life.
Yep.
And I guess I'm not saying this problem is isolated to accounts and accountants, but I guess my biggest either gripe or thing I try and teach to every business owner is how you've got to have a strong knowledge of every single department, every single aspect of the business, because whether it's accounts, whether it's legal, whether it's marketing, whatever it may be, I come from the viewpoint that 90% of the population are absolute morons, and I say it in jest but not, and that is not it's not a statistic that I think is isolated to any one particular area. And the problem is, if you don't know something, you automatically think that anyone who knows more than you, or maybe they don't know more than you, it's just that you don't know anyway, is a competent person. And I've never spoken to a business owner in the UK who doesn't think that their accountant isn't the best. You've got to use Jeff, he's the best. You've got to use Steve, he's the best. I mean, why is he the best? I mean, what do you actually know that makes him the best, other than the fact that he managed to shave 5% off your tax bill by sticking a couple of invoices through that anybody else could have done, by the way. And so I guess that's on maybe a more positive side. In the day-to-day side of the business, I mean, the number of accountants I've hired who are almost mathematically incompetent, but I get to pick up on it along the way because I do understand. But if left unchecked, where does that go to? Is absolutely frightening. And you can only know that by having that kind of knowledge yourself.
Yeah, and this is exactly why I do what I do, because I've seen the damage that causes and the risk, and people, like I said, losing their businesses or even just running themselves into the ground for no reason. Like an example I had is a woman came to me and said like that, I have an accountant, I thought he was amazing, but there was a misunderstanding as to what his responsibilities were and what hers were. And too often people have bookkeepers who they think are accountants, and they're two very different things. This person was doing it fine. He was booking, but he wasn't highlighting anything. So she assumed he would tell her if there was a problem. She hadn't been paid by her main customer for 6 months, her anchor customer really, for 6 months. She had no idea. She was out doing her business. Mm-hmm. COVID hit, cash got tight. That's when she found out. That should have been, one, highlighted straight away, and two, where's the responsibility there? I personally think the responsibility sits with the business owner.
Absolutely.
At the end of the day, it's your job to run your business.
I mean, yes, it's frightening the accountant hasn't picked up on it, but if you as a business owner can't even just either be asking basic questions or just having simple weekly MI/KPIs that you can track. I mean, not even complicated accounting things, but just simple ledger checks. Common sense approach to what money's in the bank, what's gone out, what's come in. Yeah. It's
But there's a massive fear around it, and this is why it's a problem. From the flip side of that is we can sit here and say, oh, you should be doing this, but we have to look at why they're not.
And where does that fear come from?
Fear of numbers, a fear of the complication of it. A lot of people assume it's boring, which I thankfully have many reports back where people are like, what have you done to me? I'm actually going home on a Friday night to have a glass of whatever and look at my accounts. Whereas before they would have just gone, absolutely can't, don't talk to me about spreadsheets. There is this misconception, I think, that the accounting is boring, overcomplicated, hard to understand. It can be, but it doesn't have to be. And that's where, as a business owner, I always say, start from the beginning. You're never going to get more simple than when you start out. So build it from there. Don't wait until you've hit whatever targets and then start looking at the numbers. I think you need to find someone who, first of all, open your mind up to the importance of it. Second, that it doesn't have to be that complicated. There are some key metrics that you can learn very quickly. Anyone can learn. I constantly hear, I hate numbers, I'm no good at numbers, I'm not good at math, I just can't get it. You just need to find a way to understand it and find someone who you can gel with, who will teach you that in a way that makes sense to you. And very quickly, I see people then go from, I don't want to deal with it, to almost I'm obsessed with it. Because I see what it does for my business. I see how empowering it is.
I mean, I don't know how anyone can have an interest in business or think of themselves as a business owner without having at least an interest in it, if not an obsession. I mean, I would argue that I'm almost like, you know, pathologically obsessed, and we'll chase those ledgers down to the penny. But yeah. I don't. I mean, you can sell a product, you can offer a service, but if you're not passionate about the accounts and what that's looking like into money, I mean, I would argue you're not really a business owner, you're not really an entrepreneur.
I would disagree.
Go on, tell me why.
I would disagree.
Come on, argue with me in my own house.
I think that's a bit unfair, because when I work with clients, they have the passion for the service, they have the passion for the business, they have big goals for their business, but we all have blocks. We all have a piece in our business where we don't want...
But this is such a fundamental block of business.
Agree.
Like, I mean, I'm not disputing their passion for the product, their passion for the service. You know, whatever it may be. You've built a better microphone, or you're curing cancer, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But that's, I don't know, that's the science for me, or the art, or whatever it may be. But
yeah.
The business is that kind of, holistic wrapper around it that takes that passion, that takes that art, and turns it into something monetizable and sustainable.
Yeah, and I think that's where you need to look at yourself in the mirror and go, what am I doing here? And I often say to people, like, you're not running a charity. This is not a hobby. You went into this business because you want to make money. Now, one of the reasons why I focus so heavily on women is that women tend to pull back from, I want to make money at this, especially when it's a service and they're selling themselves, essentially, coaching or whatever it might be, or something that they've created. So there is this common thread among women to not step into that, I want to make lots of money. And then they shy back, and not knowing the numbers can be an excuse for that. But it's also a genuine fear. It is a genuine fear, and I see it every day, and it's exactly why I do what I do. But I do say to people, look, at the end of the day, you need to make money to sustain this. Whether you want to be just comfortable or you want to make multi-millions and you want to go public eventually, you have to look at the numbers. But we have to look at why you're not looking at the numbers. And sometimes it can be just an absolute fear of, what if it doesn't work?
Do you think it stems potentially as well from so many cultures also thinking it's dirty to talk about money?
Oh yeah, and especially so many cultures, and I think that's actually global. I think that's across pretty much all cultures.
I was going to ask you, how do you find any cultural differences between Ireland and UAE, for example? But I also think I can't really think of any culture that's excited to talk about money.
No.
I mean it's a lot more, let's say, prevalent nowadays. If you look at, let's say, the social media side of things now, whether or not that's a cultural shift or whether it's just a marketing angle to talk about or not, but people are still very, very shy and I've always been the opposite, not because I'm nosy, but because I have a genuine interest in other people's businesses and understanding. But very much, well, I say in the UK, but anyway, you ask someone, oh, what's your turnover? What's your business making from that? It's like you've asked to run off with the wife or something. Oh, I'm not telling you that. Well, it's not difficult. I can look on Companies House. It's not a hard thing to find out, but people have this, I don't know, this big veil of privacy around it that I'm not telling you what my business takes, or I'm not telling you what our profit margins are. That's confidential information. Yeah,
and very often that can be down to ashamed. They're not proud of it. They're afraid of the scrutiny of it. Are they not good enough? Because I talk about this a lot with, again, I don't want to hammer the point, but like and there's studies to back this up about men and women and different. in this approach, whereas men are culturally, socially conditioned to earn, invest, do more, build a big business, be successful, and they can be very much attached to their self-worth. And sometimes they protect that because if they don't feel good enough, they're not willing to share, because what if you judge him? Whereas women, on the other hand, we get the opposite. We're told, don't be greedy, don't talk about money, it's not polite. Why are you so focused on money? You're no good with numbers anyway, leave it to him. So then when we don't feel confident stepping into that space, because we have, I did this a few times, done surveys in like workshops or whatever, and it's actually, there was, I forget the bank now, it's a bank in the US did really incredible research on this. And 84%, when I do it, it comes between 84 and 82. It's really interesting, it's consistent. And this research was 84% of women, when they try to talk about money, have experienced negative stereotyping. So if you're not already confident in that, and someone slaps you back, then you're going to pull back, right? So then you're less willing to share, less willing to step into that space. And I think that is the issue, because we are told, it's greedy, it's not ladylike, it's not feminine to talk about money, whereas men are told it's masculine. Do talk about it. And then if they're not feeling secure in that, then they'll step back from it. So it's more than just cultural as well. It's generational. It can be in pockets, of course, where people do talk about money, but then sometimes it can go the other way, when it's all about money. And it becomes too much of that. And
how do you find your customer base then? Because I guess I would imagine, given what we're saying about the fact that, women, I know your audience is primarily women, how that you're talking to an audience who are already shy about it, and it's probably not they're not looking out there going, I want to learn about money, let me go and find Carol. You're talking to an audience that doesn't think they should be knowing about money, or is probably, like you say, has been beaten down.
Yeah.
So how do you find and educate these people and get them to start to come out of the shell to become a customer?
It is both, because you will have women, let's say, for example, and men too, like I said, I do work with men as well, who will be like, I need to learn this, but I've looked here and I just felt small. I tried this and I didn't understand it. And then they'll, I hope, come to me, and what they say is like, you make it simple. And I feel safe. And I don't feel like I don't shame people. I don't, it's like, okay, I look at the person and go, what's your situation? What's holding you back? How can we fix it? What can I do to help? To do it in a way that actually brings them up. And then it becomes referral. So then other entrepreneurs. I do a lot of employee, because companies are becoming more aware of this.
But wanting their employees to have better knowledge about...
Have better knowledge. And that can be from business finance as well. So I go in and do trainings for managers who have no business training, no finance training. And I'll go in and I'll teach them how to do that. It's a real mix. If someone is interested in it, they'll come and find me. Or I just put content out there, and share the importance of it, awareness that how powerful it is for your business and your personal life to understand your finances and open up people's minds to it. And then
you talk about demything money. I mean, other than, let's say, money is boring or accounting is complicated, tell me 2 or 3 other, real common misconceptions about money.
From a business perspective, or in general?
Either business and personal.
I think, what myths come up? Well, there's 2 sides to it. One is that, people either say they underestimate the value of an accountant and accurate accounts. So saying, well, you need proper accounts, not just the money in a bag, as you say, or not just a spreadsheet, but working with an accountant to do that. And they're to the other side of only the accountants know what to do. There's no point in me getting involved, and I trust them, and the next thing that person's stealing from them because they can. Other myths are that it's back largely it's about the mindset around it, to be honest. It's about opening people's minds up to go, I can do this myself. I can step into this space. I can go into a boardroom and talk about money. I am capable of that. I can go to an investor and talk about money and answer any questions that they have, and not just completely shy away from that and then forget about my business. It's really, the biggest thing for me is opening up that mind to go, you can be in charge of your accounts. Doesn't need to be overly complicated. You can choose the right people, and it actually is your job as a business owner to choose the right accountants, the right finance people, and when it comes to the right investors. Because what you have there as well is sometimes I've seen people allow investors into their business because, like you said earlier, the investor, well, they must know better than me because they have money. And then it just becomes an absolute nightmare because it's a mismatch because that person didn't understand the finances of it enough to be able to actually be an equal partner, and then the investor comes in and it's a disaster. So it's really, for me, it comes down to people taking ownership and believing that they can actually do it.
How do you advise a business owner to employ an accountant, as in, I'm not talking about an external firm, I'm talking about employing your own in-house accountant or the start of an accounts team. How do you advise them to recruit those people if they don't know anything about accounts themselves?
I actually had a call with someone recently on this exact thing. And sometimes they hire me to help them with that. So very often I am that middle person to build that relationship, to make sure the business owner is educated, confident, and knows what they need from that accountant, and that the accountant is delivering so that the communication is clear. So that's part of what I do as well. But you're right, that person needs to know what they're asking for. You know, it's like going to the doctor and saying, "Oh, I don't feel well, fix me." Well, what's actually wrong with you? You know, give me more specifics here. What do you need from me? I would first do that and get yourself educated on that. There's plenty of resources online, but then that can be overwhelming. You know, there's every sort of information there. So it would be, if you can as well, step into doing the accounts yourself for a little while. Go from the bottom, because then you will understand exactly what it involves, how it all comes together, or work with your bookkeeper or whoever it might be to really understand it, and then go looking for who you want. And don't just like that go, my friend recommended this accountant, they do my books. That's it.
I tell you what I found very eye-opening probably a couple of years ago, and obviously I've always come from my position of that I've hired many horrendous accountants over the years, and in hindsight, maybe for not doing this is maybe why I ended up with so many of those bad people. But two or 3 years ago, one of my, let's say, right-hand people who's been with me for 15 plus years, she's in a financial controllery type capacity. We were recruiting a very senior person at this point. It was like a group FC/FD on a 20 million quid turnover business, and I'd interviewed for fit and for context, etc. And I brought her in for a second interview, and she starts to ask this person, who's a guy, very granular, like accounting type questions, like, this is the task. How would you post this, or what would you do the other? And I started to cringe inside, thinking, "Fucking hell, you can't. You're almost like speaking down to this 50-odd-year-old man with this 30-year CV." I'm thinking, you can't say that to him. And then I watch him not be able to answer these questions, these most basic financial questions. I think I'm so glad she started to ask this, because obviously it's saved us a disaster with this guy here, but is now integral to future hiring, and and we do it all the time now, and quite often we'll get faces pulled by these people that were about to ask the questions of, I don't know, you've got a group structure, how do you do it intercompany transfer from this to the other, and the quantity of people that are getting flummoxed over these things, and then when you pull them, they're like, oh well, I've only ever really worked in, it's a big company, but it's one single company. You've got a seven company group structure. Okay, but it just means you're raising a credit from there and a debit to there, or whichever way around it may be, and ultimately it's not rocket science. You just need some common sense application. But the amount of, I think, common sense and simple mathematics that is lacking is frightening.
It is frightening, actually, and it is one other thing that I learned when I came out of audit. How many accountants out there who didn't have the basic accounting training, back to my point where I said I was so grateful for the training that I got at PwC, because I really started to understand why we were trained the way we were, why it was so hardcore at the time, because I started seeing, and it was a real eye-opener for me in different regions and different places, how accountants are trained or not, as the case may be. And I think that's a good point, though, because when you're looking for an accountant, you need someone who has experience in your business. Because if you have a service business and then you have, a fast-moving goods business, the accounting for them, a good accountant will figure it out, but the actual experience and the kind of day-to-day things that you might have to deal with are quite different. The considerations are different. So you can't have someone come in and say, oh yeah, I've only ever worked in service businesses all my career, and yes, I know how to run your FMCG, multinational. No, actually you don't. Yeah. You can learn it, I'm sure, but you need to be open about that.
Well, I've seen it firsthand recently again, where we were recruiting an FCFD for an online e-com business, retailer e-com, and some of the people we were interviewing had not come from that kind of background.
Yeah.
And when you stop and you ask them some simple questions like, what do you think the biggest, what are the biggest variables, what are the most important lines on the ledger here, and which would be stock or what's your biggest, what do you think your biggest numbers, your biggest costs are, and you can't get an answer.
Yeah.
And it's not an accounting question, it's really a common sense question.
And it's also about how they react to it, because I think that as accountants, if you're a well-trained accountant and a well-rounded person, you will figure it out, right? But this is where I would say, well, you know what, I actually don't know right now, but this is what I would do to figure it out. And this is what I would do for your business. And then I guess it's up to you as to whether, it's a trade-off. Like there might be a good personality fit, someone that you can really see can push the business forward in other ways, and you give them time to upskill themselves in that place. No one's perfect at the end of the day. But it's not, all accountants aren't one and the same. And also you're looking at qualifications. There's another thing I learned when I went into industry. Not all qualifications are the same. Not all training experience is the same. I used to say, I don't care where, for a technical accounting position that I used to hire for, say, and I learned this the hard way. I made the mistakes of assuming all accountant trainings are like what I got. I learned very quickly with a few fails when I hired that it really isn't. And then I started looking at where people trained, and I don't care who they are, where they're from. It's like, what is your actual experience and where were you trained? But then that's an insider. I know that because I'm an accountant. Your average business owner is not going to know that. So then it's like anything in life. You find someone, if you have a gap in your knowledge, you find a coach, a friend, a mentor within your network to help you. Or like you did, you had the finance person that you could bring in to ask those questions. You need to know where your blind spots are and get the help, because otherwise you will waste so much money on these things, learning it the hard way.
Let's transition from business finance to personal finance. So, you talk about how you will advise both business owners and individuals to deal with their personal money.
Yeah.
What are some of the most common problems you find with people managing their own money? And I guess for me, if I was having a couple of guesses, I'd say you've probably got people who don't spend a penny because they're scared that if they spend it, they're never getting it back from anywhere. And I would imagine you've got the group of people who spend 6 times more than they earn, and they have no concept that is even what's going on.
Yeah, exactly. And everything in between. So that scarcity mindset of save, which is, to be honest, where I lived for a long time. Save, this is going to go away one day, and scared of it, to, it's fine, I have an abundance mindset, it's going to come, it's all going to work out, bury my head in the sand and hope for the best until it all blows up. And even in between that, the number one thing is just not looking at it, not managing it. So either you're saving everything and thinking that's okay, but you're actually really stressed and not enjoying life, or enjoying life, but knowing at the back of your mind, they know this is a problem, but they're burying it and burying that stress, and then tend to kind of reactionary, spending more to nearly bury that feeling of, I'm in trouble here, but they're not dealing with it.
So when you take on a new client, do you kind of tend to split the work into 2 parts? There's, let's say, the day-to-day budgeting and the cash flow, that you earn X, let's have a look at what you spend. Does that match up? And then there's the investment pot, if you have one. There's an investment pot, and that is what we're going to then try and build over time to be able to replace your income as you get older, or to meet some of your future financial goals.
Yeah, exactly. The number one thing I start with is clarity, financial clarity. I regularly say money loves clarity, and it's back to the same with the business. You understand the finances of your business, it will change your business and you, and how you operate and how you turn up in your business. Same with your personal life. If you don't know what you're spending on a daily basis, if you don't know your habits, if you don't know why you're not saving what you think you should be saving, then you're at nothing. So I sometimes force, and I say force because people are reluctant. I don't force it on them, but they come to me, right? But it feels like forcing for them we look in detail at exactly what they're doing with their money. There's no estimates. It's from your bank statements. It's from your credit cards. It is a very vulnerable place.
And do you find that very often when you run this exercise, people, obviously I don't believe obviously the because the numbers are there in front of them, but people are almost looking at it in disbelief and thinking, I didn't believe I spent that, or I didn't believe I had that.
Oh, every time there's aha moments where people are like, and they question me, that can't be right. No, that's not it. No. And I can, because we have it, and that's the beauty of having the exact numbers. It's like
we're looking at your bank statement.
It's your bank. I'm not making this up. I didn't estimate this. You can't blame me. This is the bank statement. These are the numbers. And I can pinpoint, and they're like, oh my God, I had no idea that added up to that. An example where people will say, eating out is a common one, right? Especially with families. And I had one family where it was coming to 6,000 dirhams a month. And they said to me, I think we need to budget about 2, maximum 3,000 a month, because we never go out. We don't have a life. This is the constant joke with young kids. We never have a life. But what they're not thinking about is the lunches, the coffees, the breakfasts, the dinners with the kids. They're thinking, I don't go out, as in big nights out. And we had to audit that, because they were like, I don't believe we're spending 6,000. We couldn't possibly be spending 6,000. They're like, we wish we had the life where we were spending 6,000 kind of thing. But the numbers don't lie. The numbers don't lie. And you can't deny it then. You have to face up to the reality. It's like looking in a mirror. And what people tell me is like, this is my life in numbers. You are mapping out exactly how I am living my life, because the numbers are there. Because we need money to do everything.
I think as well, because of, I guess, in the same way that casinos like you to use chips instead of cash, because it doesn't feel real and it's easier to flip through your fingers. Yeah. I think the methods of payment nowadays, particularly Apple Pay, which I always used to call it's magic money, because you don't believe you're spending anything. I think things like that make it so much easier to lose track as well. And literally just last night I was talking to one of my accounts people, because we're just doing an exercise on some of my personal spending which I need to present to someone for something. And we ran my bank account for the last 12 months, and she messages me, she says there's 800 line entries for Kareem. 800 line entries for Kareem in the last 12 months, and all I could say is, well, I guarantee you there's going to be more than that for Uber, because you just don't notice.
You don't think about it.
I sit there and probably 3 times a day, even if it's not like a lunch thing, I might be sat here now and be like, you know what, let's get a donut delivered or something, and it's. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't feel like much money, but that £2 delivery charge, or that £3 service fee 2-3 times a day, 7 days a week, 52 weeks of the year,
it adds up.
And it's thousands here, 10,000s there, and it's very easy to lose track of. And when I used to watch people giving other people financial advice, and one of the common things people used to advocate for was different bank accounts. And they'd be like, your money comes into this, and you have a bank account for your savings and a bank account for your VAT, and I couldn't get my head around it. I used to think, this is just so unnecessary. Like, why have you got a separate bank account to keep your VAT in? Why have you got the bit? Because you ultimately what your VAT position is. Therefore, just don't spend the money. But people are not capable of it, are they?
No. And then I often hear that just people say to me, like, why don't you just tell them to stop spending? Yeah. That's like saying to someone who's trying to get fit, just get up and run, you'll be fine. Yeah. Or you want to lose weight, just stop eating. Like it works like that for some, but for most, no. It's deeper than that. And you're exactly right. That's why it's hilarious. Like I could name like 5 lines on the accounts that people go like it would be like Kareem Deliveroo.
Go on, tell what else.
Oh, Kareem Deliveroo.
Yeah.
I have to say, especially during COVID. I mean, if you could buy shares in Deliveroo, that is the place to go. And people are like, oh my God, I don't get many takeaways. And then they're like, oh, what? Eating out's a big one. Groceries, InstaShop. Another one. And to your point of like, it's the delivery fee and then the extra cost on the groceries and then there's the delivery tip that you give people. It is amazing how that adds up. And we don't know until we can see clarity. We can't know how we're running our business finances, our personal finances, until we actually look at them. And if you look at them with that mindset of, I just want to learn, because there's a lot of shame. There's another thing I deal with massively. The shame around, because we shame each other for not being good with money. How could you be so stupid? How did you let that happen? Why are you overspending? So people don't want to talk about it and they don't want to face up to it. But if you look at it through that lens of like, oh my God, I get a lot of Koreans. Okay, do I want to continue to do that? Yes, no. Is this a low-hanging fruit where I can save some money? Is it worth it for me? And that's the next piece. What do you actually want to do with your money? You know, we talk about, people often say to me, just tell me where to cut. I'm like, it's not for me to decide. What I do is give you the information and help you figure out what's important to you. So it could be, you might say to me, oh no, Kareem, it's just a convenience. I actually have the car and I could just drive it. Now that I see how much money I'm spending, I don't want to spend that. I would rather take that money and go on a holiday. It doesn't have to be, I'd rather invest it or save it. I'd rather realign it to something that's actually bringing me happiness. Someone else might say, I hate driving in this city. Fine. Yeah. I know I'm going to spend that kind of money. I'm accepting that. And if I need to, I will reduce somewhere else, like the food delivery that I actually don't care about. I'm happy to cook at home. Cut that, keep this. And
I think for me the key takeaway from what you're saying is the only right answer for everybody is to have that financial clarity.
Yes.
That X is coming in and Y is going out, and therefore there's Z left over. That's the only right answer for everybody. What you do with your money is down to you, and it's about then, you know, does the spending make you happy, and does the spending take you closer to your goals? And if you like for example, I don't know, I love spending on red wine, you know, expensive red wine. Yeah. Or if I go on holiday, I'm more interested to have a business class or a first class seat than I am to have a hotel suite at the other end. And these things, they're not right or wrong answers. I think the big misconception people have when they talk about other people's money is they think because somebody is happy to spend X on that, they should also spend Y on that. And they're like, well, you know, you've spent, for example, you've spent £10,000 on a flight, but you're spending £100 a night on a hotel. Yeah. It doesn't make any sense. Well, no, it does, because I'm miserable in that economy seat for a 10-hour flight. But when I get to that destination, as long as the room's clean and it's got a shower and stuff, I don't really give a shit, because I'm going to be out and about and doing something else. And you know, I guess it's knowing what the numbers are so you can decide how you allocate it. It's the same. That's in the personal context. If it's the business context, you know, there's no right answers of how to grow your business, how to scale it, or what you should be investing in next. But you just need to know that, you know, what the fundamental numbers are and what is there.
And you're consciously managing your money, hence conscious in my business name. It's conscious finance management, basically, and aligning it with your values. It's exactly what you described. So it's important to me as a person to have comfort on the plane. Don't care about the hotel. So it's bringing me joy to have comfort. The hotel, I'd rather take that money and spend it somewhere else. And what happens is people then project their own views on it. Yeah. But that's a waste of money. Why would you spend $10,000 on a flight when you could do? Fine, that's good enough for you. Yeah. I'm happy with what I'm doing. And that's when money actually brings joy. And that's when you're confident in your decisions, because you're doing it based on the clarity that you have. I have the cash available to do this. And then I'm going to do it because it works for me. It's not based on what my friend told me I should do. It's not based on what I saw this guy on the internet thinking, oh, I should be like that, therefore I'm going to do it, but I actually don't care. Money's not going to bring me joy that way. I'm doing it based on what's important to me. And that's when money brings happiness. Rather than, I'm spending, I'm getting the business class. Why aren't I happy? I should be happy. Mm-hmm. Because actually I would have been just as happy back in the economy and used that money to buy the nicer hotel. But I'm done it the other way around because, that's what Matt did. Therefore, that he looks happy. I'll copy him. But actually, I'm not. And that's when then you just more and seeking. Whereas bring it back to clarity. Understand your value system, what's actually important to you. Align the two. Honestly, that's the basic formula of money bringing happiness.
What about investing now? I know you're not a financial advisor per se, but you advise people on how to invest and how to make better choices for the future. Just talk to me a little bit around that, and what kind of basic strategies people who haven't been doing any investing should be starting with.
And it's back to the same running theme. Actually take charge. Get involved. Don't just give it to someone else. The amount of people I speak to who just give their money to a financial advisor and they have absolutely no idea what that person's doing with their money. Oh, I have a financial advisor. He's amazing. He's brilliant. She is brilliant. Well, what is she investing in? I don't know, but she's very good. My friend said she's very good. It's the same as the conversation we have with the accountants. Yeah. And we bury our heads in the sand to go, because that's too complicated and it's too much responsibility as well. I'll pay them to do it. And again, I think that is a massive risk in your life, because if you can't sit with that financial advisor and first know what questions to ask them, to understand their responses, you're flittering your money away a lot of the time. You're high risk there for being taken advantage of. So what I do is, one, education. Tell me what you know about investing. Let me fill the gaps. What you need to know. Then we work through, well, what is it you want to achieve? What is it? I don't believe in retirement. I believe in financial freedom. So, which are essentially the same thing, right? But financial freedom is the goal. Because who wants to plan for retirement? It's like, I'll be old and decrepit maybe and I might not make it. Financial freedom is much more exciting. Let's make this exciting. So something that the person's actually interested in. It's not a chore. Retirement feels like, I'm putting money away for something I might not ever use. So then, and what does that mean for you? And then we work backwards. Now,
and sorry to interrupt. So when you say what does that mean for you, do you get them to work out what they need to spend to enjoy the life they want to live, and therefore that is their number that you need to backwards? So whatever, I need £100,000 a year to live from. So okay, how are we going to find a way to passively get you 100 grand?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And by what age and what stage? Yeah. Because then we've got our goal and we work backwards then to figure out how we reach that goal. Yeah. And then we go into the detail. So, sometimes, and this can be cultural, property versus stock market. I'm Irish. We love property. Yeah. We're obsessed with it. When I work with Irish clients, it is tending to open up their mind to actually the stock market and what that is. Understanding it, open up their minds to it. And then, like that clarity, the base level, I think that, back to what I said about the accountant, do it yourself for a while, and then you can have informed, confident, empowered conversations with the higher level experts that you need. So getting people to invest, opening up a brokerage, it is really interesting the amount of people who just completely shy away from investing and put all their money in the bank with zero interest. They're not even getting interest on it because that's safe. So it can really be, I'm talking grassroots level of opening them up to taking that money out of the bank and putting it into an investment. And I do that by teaching them how to do a basic ETF using a brokerage like Interactive Brokers with $500. I always say start with an amount that it's not going to keep you awake at night. So that when you go to bed, and if that $500, for example, if that's an amount for you that if you lose it, you're like, whatever, it was learning. Start there and then build on it. But every single time they're like, oh my God, this is amazing. This is so easy. I wish I'd done this more. And then they build on it from there. The other question then is between property and investing. And then that can sometimes come back to your value system as well. I had a client who came to me and she had money and all of her family invested in property and they were putting pressure on her to buy property. And she couldn't. She could not bring herself to do it. And I said, why? What is your aversion to property? I don't want to be a landlord. It's too complicated. I don't want to deal with the taxes. Every time I try and look at a property, I get overwhelmed. It stresses me out. So procrastination, money sitting there losing value. Mm-hmm. I said, okay, let's park that. Have you ever looked at the stock market? Oh, God, no, that's not for me. Let's have a look at it. We went through it. She loved it. Started investing straight away. So then it can be a case of, right, well, let's go do that for now. Empowered, informed, within your means, and you can then maybe step into property later once you've worked on understanding it a bit more. So
and I would
that's
imagine
what I do.
there's a lot of transferable skills anyway. So certainly from a confidence perspective, that once you've got the confidence to understand them, the way that cash flows in one investment, you can then start to replicate it and apply it elsewhere.
Build on it, but you have to start. I mean, I think that what sometimes investment advisors forget. Well, one, they sometimes can take advantage of the fact that people don't know, and they just sell them stuff, and the person goes, okay, great. Or they kind of underestimate the fear people have around it, and therefore their procrastination to it. So you need to, I think, like anything in life, you need to take that person where they are and figure it out from there, what's going to get them their next step forward, step by step by step. But I honestly, with investing as well, I love that piece, because every time they do it, their whole face lights up. It's just like, this is a whole new world that I've stepped into, and I really enjoy it, and I feel empowered, and now I can see the financial freedom. I can see how I'm going to get there, and I'm doing it. I'm not saying there's no place for financial advisors, but I think that, and like anything in life, you need to do it yourself first, and then you can go to the experts, and then hand it over and move on to something else. Yeah.
Well, Carol, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. I think for anyone listening, whether you're a business owner or whether you're an employee, there's been plenty of things that people can take away that are immediately applicable to their life. Obviously, we'll put some show notes up online with this, but just give yourself a little shout out in terms of how people can find you, where they can find you, where they can consume some more of your content.
Yeah, I'm most active on Instagram at consciousfinancecoaching.com, or they can email me. I'm Carol at consciousfinancecoaching.com. It's the easiest way to get me. I offer free introductory calls. You want to chat more about, pick my brain, or chat about how I can help. I've got lots of offerings, group, one-to-one, digital courses, gratitude books, affirmation cards. An AI app coming out soon, which is very exciting. So that's going to be launched hopefully by the end of the year. But yeah, Instagram is probably the best way to get me.
Perfect. Well, thanks a lot again for being here. I'm going to go away and count my Kareem spending, and I realise where I'm going wrong. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much for having me.